Hello everyone, Marcus here. I want to welcome you to episode number 5 of Passing the Torch, the podcast by GrowthMentor. Today we're going back to tandem interviews. We're talking to Harri Thomas and Vito Margiotta. They are the founders of Elephants, an app that you're going to find out more throughout the podcast. But we wanted to focus also on how like-minded people met, how they connect with each other, and how they plan a whole business together. So I'm not going to tell you more about that. I'm going to let them tell the story. I want to invite you, though, to subscribe to our podcast, to our YouTube channel, to our social media channels, and start a conversation with us. So without further ado, welcome back. Hello, gentlemen. How you guys are doing today?
Really well.
All right. I'm glad. Yeah. So like I talked to the guys before a little bit of how I didn't prepare at all for this, but I didn't do it because I'm lazy. I just did it on purpose because I really want to find out what you guys are working on. But first, I need to do the regular question of like, all right, what's the connection with GrowthMentor? Who came to GrowthMentor to look for help or to offer help? How did you guys meet through the platform? So let me start with you, Harri. So were you looking for help or you were offering help?
No, so for me, in this particular instance, I was acting as a mentor. So mentoring is something that I've benefited from enormously through the years, and so I was very keen to kind of give back to the community or return to the stream that I fished, or whatever the quote is there. And it was through that process that I met Vito. And so Vito is more than qualified to be a mentor in his own right, but he's also one of those guys that is kind of consistently trying to learn and improve. And so it was through kind of the first session with Vito that we created kind of a connection and established a few shared interests. And then we had 2 or 3 sessions, I think, organized through GrowthMentor before kind of deciding to start a business.
Well, that's pretty quick. And but I guess there were things that they started clicking early in the process. So Vito, what was your main problem, and why did you come to GrowthMentor? What you needed to fix?
I think it was sales.
Okay.
I usually act as a product manager or engineer. So anyway, not necessarily on the sales side of things, you know. So this is when you hit the market and you start getting to do sales. And the shy person, you don't do sales, they will, so you kind of
a shy person, Vito.
Maybe somehow.
Yeah.
I know the feeling because I mean, it happens to me a lot that I get hired for marketing, and then suddenly it was like, well, can you come with us to the next event because you can sell? And I hate sales. I can't do it because I hate rejections. So every time I was like, no, I'll pass. We'll find a salesperson. Don't worry, we'll get there. So Harri, when you turned to GrowthMentor, right? When you went there, and this is something we want to dig into the whole podcast too. Is when did you feel that you had something to say or something to offer? When in your career you felt like, you know what, I can share some knowledge that I acquired throughout the years. So I think I'm ready for mentoring. How was that thought process in there?
I mean, it's going back quite a few years now. So don't fact check me on this, but I actually came to mentoring directly through Foti, who's the co-founder of GrowthMentor. And so prior to building Elephants with Vito, I had previously helped build a marketplace business called Respondent, which connects researchers and research participants. And it was in the very early kind of nascent stages of the growth of GrowthMentor. And Foti was looking for mentors, people who had kind of grown marketplace businesses before. And so he got in contact with me, I think, kind of directly via LinkedIn. We had a call talking about kind of the growth of marketplaces. And then when he started the business, he actually invited me on to become a mentor. So I wouldn't say that it was something that I was actively looking for, or something that, you know, I woke up one morning and I thought,
I'm a mentor.
I'm a mentor. Like, I've got all this great experience and whatever. I think for me, it was, just the result of particular circumstances and kind of the business that Foti was building. But man, I'm still surprised when people get in contact with me, you know, when they want to find things out or have conversations. And it's always super nice and very kind of affirming that, I've got something that people ostensibly find at least somewhat a little bit interesting.
Oh, it's true. I mean, I feel you in that sense because Usually my offer is more about mindset or venting frustrations. We don't even talk about strategy itself, but sometimes having just that little connection of like, look, I feel you, I've been there, I've done that, and I know it's not easy or whatever. And those little advices is what makes a big difference, at least in my experience. And Vito, was it with elephants that you had a problem, when you had a different project when you approached GrowthMentor?
Well, it's a totally different project. It's another side business I have. Where essentially we were targeting enterprises, and I didn't have my prior experience was actually in the still B2B sales, but more on a SaaS based, completely fully automated. You don't talk to anybody through ads. You connect people, and they come to you. You know, and instead in enterprise, kind of different. It's way more high touch sort of thing. So that's why actually I decided to actually look for help. And that's when I stumbled upon Harri, I guess. And by the way, on the GrowthMentor, one thing that we were talking that I really appreciated is that sometimes you can have great conversations, like in the case of Harri, was a great conversation that just happened and it was free to start with, and it was really lots of value. So that's why I think that there is a splitting between those who do mentoring for passion, which I probably call the true mentors, and to do mentoring for a business, which I call consultants. Which all fine.
No, nothing wrong. I used to charge. I charged $20 for a long time. So I was sort of promoting it like, hey, it's sort of like going to McDonald's in the US.
And by the way, there is also another third type, I must be fair, which is those who do mentoring and consulting at the same time at a heavily discounted rate, which still comes at the gigantic value. But anyway, the experience was really, really nice, both with Harri and with other people on the platform.
And so you guys started talking. You had the first call. You had a couple of calls after. So elephants started becoming a thing through these calls. Like while you guys were talking, you're like, whoa, maybe there are a couple of things that we can do. How's the story of this company that you guys created together?
Yeah, maybe I can. I'll start this one off, Vito, and then if there are details missing, you can jump in. So, as a bit of background on Elephants, Elephants is a social goals app that's working to help what we hope will be hundreds of millions of people realize their ambitions and personal goals. And on one of the calls that Vito and I were having, I actually mentioned that I had to leave the call in order to jump off to do my quarterly review. So personal goals is something that I've done for a very long time, over a decade. And the way in which I had previously kind of run my practice was I'd set goals for each quarter and then review them at the end of the quarter and kind of provide feedback on my progress.
So the regular way, right?
Yeah, the regular way, exactly. But it wasn't that much fun.
Doesn't sound like it.
And it was a hell of a lot of hard work. Until I invited some friends in with me to share the process. And so through the process of kind of sharing goals with my friends, it was this really epic unlock for me in terms of an increase in accountability, support, motivation, encouragement, resources, like all of these really good things came from it. And as part of inviting my friends in, we decided to do our quarterly reviews together. And so I was on a call with Vito and I remember saying, hey, man, I've got to jump off because I'm doing my quarterly goal review with a few friends. And, they're in different time zones. They're in Australia, in the US, and kind of all over the world. And Vito said, whoa. Like, what do you mean you're into goals? And before we got off the call, on that very first call, Vito shared his screen and pulled up what is an immaculate record of kind of the previous 10 or 11 years of his own goals. And wow. So if you wanted to know what Vito's relationship goals were in kind of July of 2011, and believe me, you don't, I've seen them, you don't want to know what they were, he can tell you. And so that was kind of a point of instant connection for us, on top of all of the other kind of business connections that we had. And frankly, what I think are pretty, parallel experiences in that we've both kind of lived internationally, both worked at big FANG companies, both kind of repeat founders. And so for me, it was just kind of another layer on top.
And Vito, like eventually you guys, well, obviously you launch this new venture. Harri, you are in the UK?
Yes, I'm in London.
And Vito, you're in Italy, right?
You're correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay. Quick question before we keep moving into the elephant story. Did you do the same thing before the pandemic when remote didn't exist as much? Do you think the whole remote idea or working from home allow you to feel more comfortable? Like, oh, look, my founder is in Italy, the other founder is in the UK. Do you think it had a little role into it?
No, I was doing remote for a very long time.
Okay, good on you, man. Good for you.
Yeah, and I was too. And so so my first business, the marketplace business, was built in the US, and we were bootstrapped for the first 2.5 years of our growth before subsequently going on to raise several rounds of VC funding. But while we were bootstrapped, we were kind of forced into a remote structure, not because that was necessarily...
There's no money for an office.
Yeah, what we wanted to do. Exactly. We just had no money for an office. And we were like, man, looking at these software engineers, and they're $120K in New York, or for somebody with exactly the same experience that's been to the same schools, we can get them for half that if they live in Denver. And so we were like, man,
Denver's it.
Denver. Denver it is, exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's how we came to remote in kind of 2014 or so. So I've been remote for a very long time. So the relationship that Vito and I have is kind of very natural.
Yeah. And likewise, by the way, in my case, like my previous company, we used to be very heavy on providing services to emerging markets. So we had an office in a bunch of exotic countries, India, Kenya, Chile, and whatnot. And as part of that, well, you must be remote because you're not going to be in all these places at the same time, I guess. So, like, it kind of forced us to kind of shape the entire company culture around being distant. So that's why, to be honest, now, even with Harri, like, we meet regularly, but not too frequently. And when we meet, we usually rarely work, to be honest. We go tourist around, and
which is part of the culture, right? I mean, it's company culture too.
For sure.
So, how many people work in Elephant at the moment? Is it just the two of you with a big idea, or you already have people working on it?
Yeah. We're back with a development team, which supports us, which is additional 3 people work with us, and now we're currently increasing the team size. It's not only the 2 of us with a big idea; it's more of us with a big idea.
Yeah,
that always helps. So you had a couple of calls. You started working on it. What were the first blockers into creating new business? Because I mean, a lot of the people in GrowthMentor are calling for, I want to start my own business, or I want to grow my business. Like in your case, Vito, you want to do more sales. What was the first? I mean, I don't want to say blocker, maybe like the first bump or the first challenge that you guys found together into creating a new concept, a new business.
Yeah. So, I guess for us, like, we didn't start Elephants as a business. It wasn't kind of ever intended to grow into what it was now. For us, Elephants was a solution to a problem that we were personally experiencing. And so kind of from this shared realization that goals were important to us, we had kind of a couple of scoping calls. And we realized that the way in which we were sharing goals with friends currently was fairly suboptimal. We were using things like WhatsApp groups and Slack groups and Google Sheets and trying to set up, Zaps to ping different things and, connections to Strava. And it was all just kind of all over the place. And so Vito, kind of being, eminently practical, said, well, look, why don't we just build something that can kind of serve our needs? And so from the kind of first design session to getting something out in the world, which was kind of a very basic but functional and kind of working prototype of Elephants, was about 2 weeks. And then, we shared it with the friends that we were sharing goals with currently, and they invited a few of their friends, and they invited a few of their friends, and it was put on a couple of Reddit forums, and it spread. And before we knew it, we had about 100 odd people signed up to a tool that was only ever intended to be for kind of me and Vito and our immediate group of friends. So that's how the business grew, and that was kind of the genesis of the idea that became Elephants.
Now, this morning I posted on LinkedIn something because I've been doing this silly post about Y Combinator has a bunch of advice, like a list of 22 advice that they give to startups. And the one that I was doing today, it was about build things that people want, right? And you guys build something that I'm not sure if it's something that people wanted, but it's something that people sort of needed without knowing that they wanted it. It's like, I think you guys are hitting a sort of a niche that this is something that existed all the time and is needed because you need to do certain things, but now you can do them better. And if you probably ask someone, I wouldn't come out with the idea of elephants. I mean, this was something that you guys brought up because your experience on your own goals and developing things throughout the years. How much you think your previous experience on your previous companies helped to shape the idea of putting a product like this out? Because it's definitely not something that you just, all right, well, let's just do this. I mean, why not? Let's see who will buy it, right?
Yeah.
I can take that job. Generally speaking, like personally, maybe I'm wrong again. So maybe my combinator people are smarter maybe than I am. But my personal thing is like build people that you want, and then not other people want. And I really wanted that. So like it's a like I was a user, I still am a user. And likewise, Harri was it is. So in that regards, I think that we did the right thing in terms of building the first prototype of elephant the way in which we were thinking the thing was supposed to work in the first place. Well, we realized after that. So in that regard, by the way, I think we didn't follow our general intuition, which is like doing a little bit more research and interview cast and whatnot. Just went and build the thing. And again, it wasn't meant to be a business. It was meant to be a product that we will use. What we realized after that, and this is actually what brought the initial version of Elephant and then become the Elephant that it is today, is that we then soon after had to answer the question, well, how many people will actually want to use the product that does exactly the same complex set of things that we wanted the product to do? So what you call, Marcos, a niche. And for that, we will argue that if you look at the overall planet, I think everybody does in some form or fashion goal settings. Like basically everybody.
Yeah.
Well, besides very too young or maybe too old, but a big part of it essentially. So in that case, it's not really an issue. But then obviously, if you go into and collaborative goals, and collaborative goals where tracking is yada 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 in a certain way, then at that point it obviously becomes an issue. So this is where we started to step back and say, well, okay, now when we became more serious about actually building a business out of it, it's okay, now let's restart. Let's reset and let's start thinking, how do we turn this from a niche tool into a company? And this is where essentially the new version of elephants come through.
Yeah, and I'll just add to Vito's point there that we used to jokingly refer to the TAM of elephants as roughly the size of the internet, because you talk about people that want to make improvements in their life, or people that are looking to kind of build something or do something or find purpose and meaning. We think that that's pretty much everyone, and certainly the GrowthMentor audience. You look out there, and I bet the majority of people on GrowthMentor have goals of some description. But unfortunately, we've since done the research, and something like 97% of personal goals fail. And I actually think that 97%'s low. I think it's more like 99.97% of all goals fail.
I'm pretty sure you're right.
Yeah, and I think the reason why that is because in that kind of nascent stage where goals are just, they're just the seed or the kernel of an idea, they're lacking the support and encouragement and the watering of people who kind of share the goal to get them to sprout out of the ground. And so what we're hoping to do at Elephants is to provide that kind of fertile soil where people can come in, and it doesn't matter what the goal is, whether it's fitness or financial or adventure or relationships or learning a new language, whatever the case may be, you can come in, connect with people that share the goal, plant the seed, and kind of grow the plant and realize your ambitions.
Yeah, and another point to it, I guess, is the thing that, as you were saying, Harri, like essentially the internet is the audience. But at the same time, though, not everybody is intentional about the goal settings. Some people just ask them, "Wow, what are your goals?" I don't have a goal. Sure. What do you want to do this year?
I think
no, it happens. But then if you ask the same question in another way, which is what do you want to do this year, then they have the whole plan laid out. So like
All of the hundreds of goals are there.
Yeah,
so,
I know. Yeah.
so sometimes really sometimes to some people are kind of scary in the sense that it seems like a big thing, while maybe rephrasing it in another way makes it work. And on top of that, making it collaborative, meaning with friends, make the entire thing to be perceived in a different light, which I think is way better because it makes it more fun. It makes it less like I must do this thing because it makes it more of a cool thing, nice thing to do.
And it's innately human, isn't it, Vito? Because I think humans are kind of inherently social and collaborative creatures, and it's our superpower. And so when we kind of harness those collaborative instincts, that's when we can really start to create kind of meaningful change.
I love the idea.
I think it comes naturally.
I love the idea of the collaborative factor into it because, for example, I don't know. I've been planning to lose weight forever, right? And there's always this moment that is like, whatever, just an extra sandwich here and there. Nobody's looking. I'll start again tomorrow. But when you're with other people, they're like, no, guys, we're not doing this, right? We're not doing this, right? Well, cool. Let's stay focused.
Yeah.
So that's amazing that you have the extra factor of which I don't think is peer pressure. It's actually, like you said, it's collaboration. It's we're in this together.
Yeah, and what we're finding through kind of beta testing, I think everybody knows, is that the development of the relationships in pursuit of the goal are actually more important than the goal itself.
It's the journey.
And so it's the journey, man. It's the journey. And so while you might achieve the goal, like you get out the other end and everybody's lost 5 kilos or whatever the case may be, it's also like this is a shared experience and something that we've worked through together, and you form really strong bonds through that process. It's the same with sports teams and kind of like, you know, working on special projects at work or whatever the case may be. You can take a lot of value out of the journey, and it's often more valuable than actually the achievement of the goal itself. And so that's what we're really trying to kind of amplify in the product.
And how far you want to take it? Like what's the stage 2, 3, or 4 of elephants? Like how do you envision that? Vito, you can probably answer that one.
Yeah, sure thing. Generally speaking, I think there is a bunch of factors that go into elephants. The first one is you kind of already know what you want to do. Again, you're able to answer to the question of what do you want to do this year. You kind of have an idea in mind and whatnot. But then I think where the cool part starts to kick in is when actually there is discovery about new stuff, which goes beyond the initial thing that everybody thinks about, which is lose weight, for instance, or run 10 kilometers or whatever, like which are the classical.
Yeah.
If there is a classical sort of goal, right? But then when you start discovering new patterns, I think this is where it gets really interesting. And so that's why for in the app, we built a way for you to browse through what are the trending goals, what are new goals, and so you can actually look around and see what's cool, and then, you know what, let me try this thing out. And then maybe that doesn't stick, but maybe you learn something new or experience something you would not have experienced otherwise. And this is, I think, where the magic kind of kicks in.
I love the fact that the trending, because so that means that if you get in there, there's no way you're living without a goal. You will find something that you need to make happen one way or another. Just touching back a little bit the subject of mentoring and leadership. How much value you see in young companies to be able to say, I don't know this, I need to go and ask someone who knows. Do you still practice that idea of like, if I need help, I'm going to go and get it, or are you trying to solve things on your own?
I can personal. Really get this goes to personal opinion, but my personal opinion is that big time, like there is value in asking, even if you know to do stuff. I'll give you an example. Like literally not too long ago, we had a conversation with Harri, with the guy that was doing and another founder to discuss about analytics. Both me and Harri have been doing analytics for a long time, but maybe this other person was doing it specifically for mobile apps, similarly to how we will envision ourselves doing it. So we have two options. Option one, learn it by yourself. Option B, confirm it with others first, and then eventually learn it or ask them to teach you. And I think option B is by far faster. than option one, and less prone to errors because you learn on others people reuse errors, in my opinion. So like I think, but not necessarily only for young companies, but for any company, in any size, to be honest, there's lots of value in learning by others people's mistakes.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, if you can learn from the masters, for me, it's just this kind of epic hack and unlock. And, you know, I think of myself as a UX researcher first and a founder second. A UX researcher is kind of what I've been trained to do. And the answers are almost always with the users. And in the same way, it's like, you know, people who have already done it, they have the answers already. You just need to kind of spend some time framing up what your question is. And, you know, you can put that out there and you'd be very surprised at the willingness of people to help you. And just to kind of echo Vito's sentiment, Vito and I are kind of in this constant learning loop. Both of us come from B2B backgrounds and, you know, have been somewhat successful in kind of the building of those businesses. But for us, we're now building a consumer app, a social consumer app at that. And that's like startup game on hard mode, man. Like it's tough. It's tough building social consumer startups. And so, and you know, we don't have all the time in the world for this thing to be successful. We have a huge amount of urgency around our mission and kind of realizing the vision of what we hope elephants can become. And so by speaking to people and kind of learning the tips and tricks that they've spent potentially a lifetime kind of building up, it just allows us to leapfrog.
To move faster.
Leapfrog our knowledge and also just to importantly kind of leapfrog the competition too. You know, the people that are better at learning will be better at applying the knowledge and understanding.
I definitely think you guys are doing the right thing. Because, yeah, I mean, you could think it's really easy for one of the big guys to say, well, we can just add that to our solution. But I think this is sort of a switch in people's minds that you don't want to use the big guys for everything anymore. It was used to be super comfortable. I mean, Harri, you were part of Meta, right? So you understand how Facebook works and how much it's been changing. I mean, in my case, I hardly use it for anything else that is just to check on my family, and that's it. So even if they will add something like elephants to it, I will definitely not use it. But the building of a smaller community looking to achieve goals, you directly go to people just like you, looking for that very specific thing that you're doing. So you don't try to find a solution among this big ocean. You just go directly to the source, which in this case is you guys, helping out with this very specific one.
Yeah, and so initially, the Elephants app is really focused on connecting with people that you already know. So bringing friends and family into the product, and kind of a key differentiator over something like an Instagram or a TikTok or a Facebook, where it's a one-to-many sharing archetype. What we're focused on at Elephants is building small communities through chat, essentially. So you can think of Elephants like a WhatsApp group with a very particular goal attached to it. And with that chat group brings a whole lot of kind of authenticity and privacy that you just can't get in kind of the large and incumbent social media platforms. And it's only through vulnerability and authenticity and kind of sharing the challenges as well as the wins that we think that we can build those meaningful experiences which ladder up to the achievement of goals.
I love it. I'm really loving the stuff that you guys are working on. And we're coming towards the end of our conversation, and I'm still trying to figure out a good question to close, like something powerful. So at the moment, I'm still working on it, but I'm asking you guys, what will be the key advice for people with just the idea? Like, I have this idea of building this or moving into this. Like, what will be? No, you have to do this first. This is the way. Like, what would you tell a young entrepreneur or an old entrepreneur with an idea?
Vito, you go first.
Yeah, again, like some different people probably think it differently, but my personal thing is like build it, but do it fast. Don't spend a lifetime on it. Like the example that we did, I think very initially was kind of the good way of doing it, which was 2 weeks at the end. And because if not, you can spend months doing the same thing. But making it on the side, I think maybe we didn't even, by the way, do everything correctly on purpose. Just happened. because we didn't have time. We were doing other stuff. We just figured, you know what, let's do it in the afternoons. And by forcing ourselves to do it small, we just cut features until we go to the very, very bone of it. And the bone of it, I think, is all you need at the beginning. So I would say do it, build it, but do it faster.
Yeah. And so for me, I kind of think about kind of two pieces of advice. The first one I don't think will come as any surprise given the conversation that we've had, but it's like find people that share your goals and learn from them. And so that kind of has a couple of different components. The first one is taking some time and energy to better understand what your goals are. And then the second element of that is sharing them and, finding people that are willing to help. And again, if you put your goals out there, I think most people will be very surprised at the willingness of people to kind of jump in and assist them in the achievement of those goals. So that's kind of the first bit of advice. And then the second one is kind of a complementary piece of advice to the one that Vito just gave, which is forget this idea that you need to be an expert before you can get started at things. It's just, get started. Just take that first step. Oftentimes, as a non-expert, as somebody who, has never done something before, you can probably get at 80% of the way there. And that represents kind of substantial progress. And once you've got that 80% foundation, then you can start talking to experts and learning from others, and including your customers, to continue to refine that product or messaging or audience, whatever the case may be. But just get started.
Awesome. That's exactly the way I started doing a podcast too. Let's just do it.
Yeah, just jump in.
Exactly, just jump in, right? Guys, thank you so much. Now, for the people who get very attracted to elephants, where can they get it? How they can sign in? How does it work?
It does work, yes. It's enough to go on the App Store and look for Elephants app.
Okay. I will add the link in the description for sure. I'll find it and I'll add it there. So if you have goals and you don't want to do it alone, and you're like me that will give up in the middle of it, definitely go and check Elephants. Harri, Vito, thank you so much for being in the show. And if you're part of the Growth Mentor community, I'm sure I'll see you around.
Yeah, thanks, Marcus. Great to be in touch.
A pleasure.
All right, guys.
Bye.
Take care.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye. All right. Well, another great interview with two amazing people. I really enjoyed this conversation. It was great to talk to people that actually are doing things. That's sort of what really motivates me about this podcast. It's just you get to talk to people who are in the middle of the battlefield doing things every day. I'm going to do a quick swoop of the three things that I'm taking with me from this conversation. So the first thing I want to take is something that Vito mentioned, which is do things fast. You cannot keep thinking over and over about the first step of something. You just need to act quickly to get things done. Otherwise, things are never going to move. So don't waste your time thinking that much. Still do, but move things faster. And together with that goes what Harri mentioned about just start. It's never going to be a perfect time for it. The only way you're going to move one step forward if you just start. And the last one that also Harri mentioned is go and find people that think like you, people that has the same values, people that can help you be more comfortable, people that can help you to develop your things and yourself faster. It's this thing of moving together with people that think and act like you. Now, don't get people that are exactly the same way you are, because you need to contrast different opinions. You need to have different perspective into things. But when you have like-minded people, you share values, you share something, skills or anything else, it helps to move things a lot faster as soon as you start. Those three things are my favorite things from this conversation. So let's finish the swoop. And yeah, nothing else to say from my side. Another great conversation. I just want to invite you again to subscribe to our channel. Look for all of the videos that we have in the Growth Mentor YouTube channel. They're great. Go and get to meet some of the mentors. Go and get to meet some of the events that we're doing. Follow the updates that I'm doing every month. Subscribe to our social media channel so you can start a conversation with us. We're happy to hear from you. And with all the love in the world, all I want to say is thank you for coming. I will see you next time. My name is Marcus. Cheers.